There are moments in life when we go through struggles, face challenges, or walk paths that seem uncertain. And yet, despite all the chaos, there's an underlying sense of peace, safety, and guidance. It's as though we are being held, shielded from harm, or gently nudged in the right direction. If you've ever had that feeling, you might have sensed that God is protecting you in ways you can't fully comprehend. There are signs that show us when God's hand is upon our lives. One of the first signs that you are being protected by God is when you find yourself in dangerous situations, yet come out unscathed. It could be something as simple as avoiding a car accident because you decided to take a different route that morning, or narrowly escaping a risky situation where things could have gone wrong. When things like this happen, it's more than just luck. It's the protective hand of God keeping you safe. Another sign is the way doors open for you when you least expect it. You might be in a place where you feel stuck or unsure about your next move, but somehow opportunities just seem to appear out of nowhere. That job you thought was out of your reach, the chance meeting that leads to something greater, or the way a problem miraculously resolves itself. It's not coincidence. It's God orchestrating things on your behalf, guiding your steps, even when you can't see the bigger picture. A third sign is a sense of peace in the midst of turmoil. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, but when you feel an inexplicable calm, when you're able to take a deep breath and say, "It's going to be okay," that peace is a sign of divine protection. It's God wrapping you in comfort, reminding you that no matter what storm you're facing, He's right there with you, offering His strength when you don't have enough of your own. Sometimes God's protection comes through the people around you. You may notice that certain individuals show up just when you need them most. They may offer encouragement, guidance, or even physical help that keeps you from falling into despair. These people are often sent by God to be your earthly angels, showing you that His protection isn't just in the unseen, but in the tangible support you receive from others. Another sign is when you have moments of deep clarity or insight. You may find yourself understanding things you didn't understand before, or receiving wisdom that feels beyond your years. This could come through a moment of prayer, a quiet reflection, or even a conversation that sparks a shift in perspective. It's in these moments that God is actively guiding you, speaking to your heart, and protecting you from making choices that could lead you down the wrong path. There are also times when things just don't work out the way you planned, and at first you feel disappointed or frustrated. But then, months or even years later, you realize that those setbacks were actually God's way of protecting you from something worse. Maybe a relationship ended, or a job opportunity fell through, only to find that the path you took afterward was far better than what you had imagined. That redirection is God's protection, steering you towards something greater than you could have planned for yourself. Lastly, one of the most powerful signs of God's protection is when you experience a deep sense of gratitude, even in difficult times. This gratitude is not a denial of pain or hardship, but a recognition that God is still at work in your life, providing for you and holding you through every trial. It's the ability to see beyond the moment and trust that, even in the struggle, God is working things together for your good. So, if you've ever felt protected, if you've seen these signs in your own life, take a moment to pause and give thanks. God's protection is not just about keeping us from harm, but about guiding, comforting, and carrying us through life's challenges. And as you go through your journey, remember, you are never alone, and His hand is always upon you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation that could have gone terribly wrong, only for everything to work out in a way that seems almost miraculous? Perhaps you narrowly missed a car accident because you decided to change your route at the last minute, or you walked away unscathed from a dangerous situation that, in retrospect, could have had much worse consequences. It's the kind of experience that makes you stop and think, how did that even happen? Or that was so close? In moments like these, it's easy to chalk it up to mere coincidence or luck. But sometimes those seemingly random occurrences are more than just chance. They're divine intervention. When you find yourself in risky or threatening situations and you somehow come out unscathed, it's often a sign that God is shielding you, protecting you in ways that may not always be immediately apparent. These are the kinds of experiences that remind you that there is something greater at work behind the scenes, something that's watching over you even when you aren't aware of it. It's fascinating how life has a way of throwing us into situations that seem beyond our control. You might be going about your day, feeling ordinary and unremarkable, when suddenly something happens. Something that could have led to disaster. Perhaps you were running late and decided to drive a little faster than usual, and just as you approach an intersection, you see a car speeding through a red light coming straight toward you. You brace yourself for impact, but then, by some miracle, they swerve at the last second, narrowly missing you. You exhale in relief, your heart pounding in your chest. That's the moment you realize something beyond your control just happened to protect you. It's not always about life-threatening situations either. Sometimes it's the smaller, less dramatic moments that serve as signs of God's protection. Maybe you forgot something at home and had to turn around, only to find that the road you would have been on moments before was blocked off. Or maybe you decided to take a different route to work, only to find out there had been a major accident on the path you usually take. These instances can easily be brushed off as coincidence, but when you step back and consider them, they can feel like subtle nudges from a higher power, guiding your every step and keeping you safe without you even realizing it. Consider the countless times we've avoided injury simply by a fraction of a second. A moment's hesitation, a delayed step, or the timing of a signal changing just as you're about to cross an intersection. It may seem trivial at the time, but when you think about it, it's remarkable. There's no way to predict the timing or exact circumstances that lead to these close calls, but in those moments, God could very well be the unseen force that's keeping you out of harm's way. Sometimes, we only see the full picture of protection after the fact. When a friend tells you about a near-miss accident, and you realize that they were on the same road you would have been on moments before, you might start to wonder how many close calls you've had in your own life that you didn't even know about. You could have been in a dangerous place at the wrong time, but for some reason, you weren't. The path shifted, the timing changed, or you were guided to make a different decision. That's God's protection in action, even when you don't see it. These close calls aren't always limited to physical danger. Sometimes we face emotional, mental, or spiritual threats that can cause us harm if we're not careful. We might find ourselves in toxic relationships, caught up in unhealthy patterns of behavior, or facing overwhelming stress or anxiety that could lead to breakdowns or despair. Yet, despite it all, we emerge stronger, more resilient, and with a renewed sense of clarity. This too can be seen as God's protection, shielding our hearts and minds from being overwhelmed or destroyed by circumstances that could have otherwise derailed us. It's important to note that God's protection doesn't always mean that we will never face harm or hardship. It doesn't mean we're immune to suffering or difficult times. But what it does mean is that God is with us, guiding us and protecting us in ways that we often can't fully understand. Even in the midst of trials, there's a sense that we're not going through it alone. When things seem to go wrong, but somehow still work out, it's as if God's hand is on our lives, holding us up, cushioning us from the full impact of the storm. Reflecting on these moments of protection can lead to a deeper sense of gratitude and trust in God's presence in our lives. We might not always see the ways He's working in the background, but we can trust that He's there, looking out for us, even when we aren't aware of it. Those near misses, those instances of miraculous timing, and those times when we are saved from danger, these are the signs that remind us of His watchful care. So, next time you find yourself escaping a dangerous situation or narrowly avoiding something harmful, take a moment to pause and acknowledge the divine protection in that moment. It's not just luck, and it's not just coincidence. It's God's love and care shielding you in ways that you may never fully understand, but can always trust. Have you ever experienced a moment in life when it felt like everything just suddenly clicked into place, almost as if the universe itself was aligned to help you? Maybe you've landed a job that you thought was beyond your reach, or found a solution to a long-standing problem that had seemed unsolvable. It's as if, out of nowhere, doors opened for you, offering you opportunities that you hadn't even been expecting. These moments might seem like lucky breaks, but when you step back and reflect on them, they can feel like something more, something deeply personal and profound. And when opportunities appear out of nowhere, it's often a sign that God is at work behind the scenes. You may not always see how things are coming together in the moment, but God has a way of guiding our steps, leading us toward the right opportunities at precisely the right time. We may think we're just navigating through life on our own, but it's in these moments of unexpected openings that we realize we're being steered toward the future that God has planned for us. These are the times when we find ourselves at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take, only to have the right path revealed to us in the most surprising of ways. Think about a time in your life when you've received an opportunity that seemed to come from nowhere. Perhaps you had been job hunting for months with no success, and just when you were beginning to lose hope, a connection you hadn't even considered reached out with the perfect job offer. Or maybe you were stuck in a personal dilemma, unable to find a solution, and then, seemingly out of the blue, you meet someone or come across something that offers exactly the help you need. These moments are often more than mere coincidence. They are reflections of God's work in our lives, guiding us to exactly where we need to be at exactly the right time. Sometimes, these opportunities come at moments when we feel most vulnerable. It's in our moments of greatest uncertainty that God often steps in, presenting us with an opportunity that shifts our entire perspective. Perhaps you were facing financial struggles, unsure of how to make ends meet, and then a new opportunity for income emerges. Whether through an unexpected job offer, a freelance gig, or even an unexpected windfall, the timing can feel so perfect that it seems like more than chance. It's in these times when we feel most in need that God's hand becomes most evident in the way He opens doors for us just when we need them the most. One of the most remarkable aspects of these opportunities is how they often seem to arrive when we've stopped striving for them. You know those times when you've been working hard, pushing for something, but nothing seems to be happening. You may have been applying for job after job, networking endlessly and trying to push open doors that refuse to budge, but then, just when you've surrendered to the process, when you've finally given up trying to force things to happen, that's when something unexpected happens. A door opens, seemingly out of nowhere. You're presented with an opportunity that you didn't even know you were ready for, and it feels like a moment of divine timing. It's as though God, in His perfect wisdom, knew that you needed to reach that place of surrender before He could present the right opportunity. There are also times when these opportunities come in the form of people, strangers, acquaintances, or even people from your past, who re-enter your life in a way that opens new doors for you. You may be at a point where you're feeling stuck or unsure of your next step, and then someone you haven't spoken to in years contacts you, offering help, advice, or even a business opportunity. These encounters are often God's way of working through others to provide you with exactly what you need. Whether it's a connection that leads to a job offer, a mentor who shows you a new path, or a simple conversation that sparks an idea you hadn't considered, these opportunities aren't just by chance. They are God's provision, showing up in the form of people who are meant to help you move forward. In other cases, the opportunity might come in the form of a challenge, something that initially seems like an obstacle, but over time reveals itself as a doorway to something greater. For instance, you may face a setback, a failure, or even a difficult trial that leaves you feeling defeated. But as time passes, you realize that this very challenge pushed you to develop skills or gain experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise. It forces you to grow in ways that set you up for the opportunities that come afterward. In this way, even the struggles and difficulties we face can become a means through which God leads us to new opportunities, guiding us to a place where we are better prepared for what's ahead. When we look back at these moments, whether they're small, seemingly insignificant occurrences or larger, life-changing events. It becomes clear that God's timing is always perfect. He works in ways that we can't fully understand in the moment. But when we reflect on our lives, we can see how He's been guiding us all along. Each door that opens, no matter how small, is a sign that God is working behind the scenes, leading us toward the plans He has for us. These opportunities, though unexpected, serve as reminders that we are not navigating life alone. We are being guided by a loving, purposeful force that wants nothing more than to see us thrive. So the next time an opportunity appears out of nowhere, take a moment to pause and reflect on how it may be God's hand at work in your life. Trust that even in the times when you feel uncertain or lost, He is opening doors for you, leading you exactly where you need to go. What may seem like a coincidence is often the divine guidance you need to move forward on your journey. Life is often filled with challenges, moments of hardship, and periods where everything seems to be falling apart. Whether it's a personal crisis, a health scare, a financial struggle, or the weight of the world seeming to press down on you, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the chaos around you. In those moments, when everything seems uncertain, you might feel calm, centered, and somehow unshaken. That calm amidst the storm isn't just a coincidence. It's a sign of God's protection, His presence in your life, and His ability to provide you with peace in the most difficult of circumstances. There are times in life when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. You might find yourself struggling with a difficult decision, facing a sudden loss, or dealing with unexpected challenges that seem impossible to overcome. The stress builds, the fear rises, and the sense of uncertainty begins to take over your thoughts and emotions. In those moments, it's natural to feel like you're drowning in the noise and confusion, but then, somehow, in the midst of that chaos, you might experience a profound sense of peace, a stillness that cuts through the noise of anxiety and fear, offering you a moment of clarity and calm. This peace doesn't come from the circumstances themselves. It doesn't come because everything around you is going well or because the challenges have magically disappeared. It's a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that is not dependent on the things happening around you. This peace, the kind that allows you to breathe deeply, remain grounded, and trust that everything will work out, is a direct sign that God is with you, that He is providing you with a strength and comfort that only He can give. When we experience this kind of peace, it's often because we are tapping into something beyond ourselves. We may not have the answers to the problems we're facing, and we may not see a clear way out of the situation. The peace that we feel isn't because we have everything figured out. It's because we trust in a higher power, in the knowledge that no matter what happens, God is in control. This peace can manifest in different ways. Sometimes it's a calmness in your heart, a quiet reassurance that everything will be okay, even if you can't see how. Other times, it might be a sudden clarity of mind, a moment where you are able to see things from a different perspective, helping you to make a decision or take a step forward when you had previously felt paralyzed by fear. In some cases, it might be a sense of emotional strength that rises up within you, allowing you to face difficult circumstances with a resilience that you didn't know you had. Regardless of how it shows up, that peace is a sign that God is working in your life, providing you with the inner strength you need to keep moving forward. This kind of peace is not always immediate. It doesn't always come as soon as a problem arises. But there are moments, even in the midst of prolonged struggles, when that peace settles in like a comforting presence. You might be deep in a season of trial, where it feels like the waves of difficulty are crashing against you from all sides. And yet, in the midst of it, that is the peace that comes from God's protection. It's a peace that sustains you when the going gets tough, helping you to persevere even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Sometimes this peace comes after we've prayed, meditated, or spent time reflecting on our situation. In those quiet moments, God speaks to our hearts, filling us with a peace that transcends our understanding. It's as if He is gently whispering to us, reassuring us that He is with us, that He sees our pain, and that He is walking through this trial with us. When we allow ourselves to rest in that peace, we are reminded that God's presence is not just something we seek in moments of happiness or success. It's something we can rely on in our darkest hours as well. Another powerful aspect of this peace is that it allows us to remain focused on what truly matters. When life feels overwhelming, it's easy to become consumed by worry, fear, or the temptation to try to fix everything on our own. But the peace God provides helps us to keep our perspective grounded. We can focus on the next right step rather than being paralyzed by the magnitude of the entire situation. It allows us to trust that God will provide the wisdom, guidance, and strength we need at the right time. There is a special kind of peace that only God can give. It's the kind of peace that doesn't depend on favorable circumstances, but instead rests in the knowledge that God is always present, always in control, and always providing for His people. It's the peace that allows you to be still in the storm, knowing that you are not alone. It's the peace that gives you the courage to face whatever comes your way, even when you don't have all the answers. When you experience peace in the midst of chaos, take a moment to reflect on the source of that peace. It's God's protection, His love, and His faithfulness that are sustaining you. He's the one who gives you the strength to keep going, even when you feel like you can't take another step. And in those moments, when you are able to remain calm, grounded, and centered, know that you are experiencing the power of God's presence in your life, helping you to navigate even the most difficult of trials. Life often has a way of testing us, pushing us to the brink, and placing us in situations where we feel overwhelmed or helpless. During these times, it can feel as though we're navigating a storm alone, caught in a battle that no one else can see or understand. But what's remarkable is that just when we're at our lowest, or when we least expect it, help, support, and encouragement arrive from places we didn't anticipate. This is not just coincidence or luck. It's a manifestation of God's protection, often delivered through the people around us. In these moments, it becomes clear that God works in mysterious ways, using others as vessels of His love, care, and guidance to offer us exactly what we need when we need it most. There are times in life when we feel lost, uncertain, or even abandoned, and it's easy to think that no one understands what we're going through. During those periods, the weight of the world can seem unbearable, and it's easy to become isolated, both emotionally and mentally. However, it's in these moments of vulnerability that God often sends the help we need in ways we could never have predicted. The support might come in the form of an old friend reaching out, just when you've been thinking about them, or perhaps a family member who steps in to offer guidance when you're at a crossroads. Sometimes the support doesn't even come from someone you know well. A stranger might offer you a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or even just a kind gesture at a time when you feel like giving up. These unexpected moments are God's way of showing us that we're not alone, that His care and protection extend beyond what we can see or understand. Think about a time when you were struggling, whether it was with a personal challenge, a professional setback, or even an emotional crisis, and someone stepped in just at the right moment. Perhaps you were in the middle of a difficult project at work, and a colleague unexpectedly offered to help, making a huge difference in easing your burden. Maybe you were going through a tough time personally, feeling emotionally drained, and then out of nowhere, a friend reached out with a message of encouragement or an invitation to spend time together, giving you the emotional lift you needed. These moments often feel like they couldn't be more perfectly timed, and when you look back, it becomes clear that God was orchestrating the circumstances to provide for you. This kind of support isn't always immediate either. Sometimes help arrives when we're not actively looking for it. For example, you might have been dealing with financial strain, and just as things seem to be at their worst, an unexpected bill is forgiven, or an opportunity to earn extra money appears out of nowhere. You might have been struggling with a personal loss, and then, unexpectedly, someone you don't even know offers you comfort in the form of a heartfelt message, a kind word, or even an act of kindness that restores your faith in humanity. These moments are signs that God is at work behind the scenes, using the people around you to deliver the support you need at just the right time. One of the most beautiful aspects of God's provision through others is how he uses all kinds of people, friends, family, acquaintances, or even strangers, to bring help into our lives. When you're in need, sometimes it's the people closest to you who step up, offering not only practical support, but emotional and spiritual encouragement as well. The comfort of a friend's reassuring words or the tangible help of family members can feel like a direct answer to prayer, a reminder that God hears our needs and is sending people into our lives to meet those needs. But God's provision doesn't stop there. He also works through people who may not even know that they are acting as his instruments, a stranger who holds the door open when you're having a bad day, or a passing acquaintance who offers advice that turns out to be exactly what you need. Might seem like simple acts of kindness, but in reality, these actions are God's way of showing you that his care for you extends to every corner of your life. These encounters remind us that God is present in all things, and he can use anyone, anywhere, to deliver his love and support to us. Even more astonishing is when God sends support during times of deep struggle or suffering. You might find yourself in a place of despair, feeling like you've lost all hope, and just when you need it the most, someone shows up with exactly the words or actions that you need to hear. A mentor may offer you guidance that shifts your perspective and helps you regain hope. A colleague might offer encouragement that gives you the strength to carry on. In some cases, a stranger might share a story or experience that mirrors your own struggles, offering you a sense of connection and understanding when you thought you were all alone. These moments aren't random. They're God's way of reassuring you that he hasn't forgotten you, and that he is using others to remind you that you are loved, cared for, and never truly alone. When we experience these moments of unexpected support, it's important to take a step back and recognize that God is working through others to provide for us in ways we might not have anticipated. It's easy to take these acts of kindness for granted, to view them as mere coincidence, but in truth, they are part of God's ongoing care for us. Every kind word, every offer of help, every gesture of love, whether big or small, are all signs that God is fulfilling his promise to provide for his people, often through the hands of others. So the next time you find yourself in need and help comes from an unexpected source, pause and take a moment to appreciate it for what it truly is, a manifestation of God's protection. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a stranger, these people are being used by God to show you that you are not alone, that his love and care are always present, and that he will always provide for you in your time of need. These moments serve as a reminder that God's support can come in many forms, often through the people around us, and that his protection is always at work, even when we least expect it. Life is a series of choices. Every day we are faced with decisions that have the potential to shape our future, whether they are big or small. From relationships and career choices to financial decisions and personal matters, each choice carries with it consequences that can either uplift us or steer us in the wrong direction. Sometimes we think we know exactly what we want or need, and in our eagerness, we make choices impulsively without fully considering the repercussions. But there are moments when something shifts inside us, an inexplicable hesitation, a sudden urge to pause, or a voice within that whispers, "Wait." This inner caution, this feeling that something isn't quite right, might just be God's intervention, guiding us away from poor decisions and protecting us from paths that could bring harm. Have you ever been on the verge of making a decision only to feel an overwhelming sense that you should hold off or reconsider? Maybe it was a job offer that seemed too good to pass up, but deep down, something about it didn't sit well with you. Perhaps you were about to enter into a relationship that seemed perfect on the surface, but you couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't aligned. Or maybe you were about to make a financial commitment that seemed like the right move at the time, but an inexplicable sense of doubt caused you to stop and think twice. In these moments, when you feel that inner nudge to stop, take a step back, or wait, it's not just a random feeling. It can be God's protection at work in your life. Oftentimes, we don't realize how significant our decisions are until after we've made them. It's only later that we see the ripple effects of the choices we've made, for better or for worse. What can seem like a small, inconsequential decision at the time might actually carry long-term consequences that affect our well-being, our relationships, or even our financial stability. It's easy to overlook the potential risks when we're caught up in the excitement of the moment, or when we feel pressure to make a quick decision. But that moment of hesitation, when you pause and reconsider, is often God's way of steering you away from a choice that could lead you down a harmful path. Consider a time when you were on the verge of making a choice that seemed right at the time, but something stopped you. Maybe you were about to enter into a business venture that seemed lucrative, but you had a feeling that the people involved weren't trustworthy. Perhaps you were about to sign a contract without fully reading the fine print, only for something to hold you back. In that moment, that internal nudge that told you to wait, reconsider, or gather more information was not just a coincidence. It was a divine prompt to protect you from a decision that could have led to regret or harm. This intervention can show up in many forms. Sometimes it's a quiet inner voice, a sense of discomfort that you can't quite explain. Other times it might be a sudden change in circumstances that makes it impossible to go through with a decision. Perhaps a job opportunity falls through or a meeting is delayed, giving you more time to reconsider. These moments might seem like mere coincidences, but when you look back, you realize that they were God's way of protecting you from making a choice that wasn't in line with His plan for your life. His guidance is often subtle, and it's easy to overlook these small nudges when we are focused on what we think we want. In relationships, this protective intervention is especially significant. It's easy to become emotionally invested in someone, and sometimes we can overlook red flags or warning signs because we're eager to make the relationship work. Whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a business partnership, God knows what's best for us. When we experience that sudden sense of caution or doubt before entering into a relationship, it could be God's way of protecting us from heartache, manipulation, or even deeper emotional wounds. Similarly, in the realm of finances, God's intervention can show up as a sense of restraint or a change of course. How many times have we been about to make an impulsive purchase, sign a lease, or take on debt, only for something inside us to say, wait? Perhaps we feel the urge to hold off on that expensive vacation, or we suddenly realize that we've been overspending without realizing it. These moments of financial restraint, though sometimes uncomfortable, are often God's way of keeping us on the right path, preventing us from making decisions that could lead to financial instability or long-term debt. The protection God provides through these moments of hesitation is a reminder that we don't have to navigate life alone. We are never left to make decisions without guidance or help. Even when we feel uncertain or overwhelmed, God is there intervening in ways we may not always recognize. His presence in our lives is felt in the smallest decisions and the biggest ones, guiding us away from harm and toward the plans He has for us. The wisdom and discernment we gain through these nudges allow us to make better choices, avoid regret, and ultimately walk in alignment with God's purpose for our lives. It's important to remember that God's protection doesn't always come in the form of avoiding pain or difficulty. Sometimes the best decision for us is one that challenges us or forces us to grow. However, when it comes to poor decisions that could derail us or put us on a harmful path, God's intervention is often a quiet yet powerful force that keeps us grounded, helping us make choices that lead to peace, stability, and fulfillment. So, the next time you experience that moment of hesitation, that inner nudge to pause or reconsider, take a moment to reflect. It's not just your intuition. It could very well be God's protection, steering you away from a decision that could lead you down a harmful path. Trust that He is guiding you, even in the smallest choices, and that His wisdom is always available when you seek it. In these moments, you're reminded that God is not only with you in times of need, but also actively working to prevent you from walking into situations that could cause you harm. Life is not always smooth sailing. We all face struggles, personal hardships, health challenges, financial difficulties, and emotional pain. During such times, it can be difficult to see past the immediate discomfort, the weight of the burden, and the overwhelming sense of uncertainty. Yet there are moments, even amidst the most difficult of circumstances, when we find ourselves feeling an unexpected sense of gratitude. It's a quiet yet profound awareness that despite the struggles we face, there is still something to be thankful for. This feeling isn't born out of denial of the hardship, but rather an acknowledgement that even in pain, God is still at work in our lives. This ability to remain thankful, even in the midst of adversity, gratitude in the midst of struggle, doesn't come easily. And it doesn't mean we're ignoring the pain we're experiencing. On the contrary, it's a recognition that while life may not be perfect or easy, there is still beauty, there is still hope, and there are still blessings to be counted. In those moments of hardship, gratitude doesn't diminish the difficulty of what we're facing. It shifts our perspective, allowing us to see beyond the immediate storm and recognize the broader picture of God's love and care for us. One of the most remarkable aspects of gratitude in difficult times is that it allows us to hold two conflicting emotions at once: the pain of the moment and the hope that comes from knowing we are not alone. It's like holding on to an anchor when the waves of life are crashing all around us. That anchor is our faith and trust in God's presence. Even in the darkest of times, when everything feels uncertain and out of control, we can still find something to be thankful for. Perhaps it's the love of family and friends who stand by us, or the quiet strength we discover within ourselves, or the moments of peace that break through the chaos. These small gifts of grace are a sign that God's protection is always at work, even when we can't see the full picture. When we cultivate this sense of gratitude, we begin to understand that hardship doesn't define us, it refines us. God uses the difficult moments to shape us, to teach us lessons that we might not learn any other way. It's in the trials that we often grow the most, developing resilience, patience, and a deeper understanding of our own strength. Though we may not understand the reasons behind the struggles we face, we can trust that God is using them for our good, even when it feels like we're being tested beyond what we can handle. Gratitude helps us see that, while we may not be able to change the circumstances, we can change how we respond to them. And in changing our response, we open ourselves to the possibility of deeper peace, growth, and connection to God. In these moments of gratitude during struggle, we also begin to see the bigger picture. It's easy to become consumed by the immediate challenges and lose sight of the larger story that God is writing for our lives. But gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack or what's going wrong to what we have and what's going right. We start to notice the small blessings that often go unnoticed: the support of a friend, the ability to take another step forward, or the quiet moments of rest that allow us to recharge. These small moments of grace remind us that God is still with us. Gratitude in the midst of struggles is also a powerful reminder that our circumstances don't define our worth or our future. Just because we're going through a difficult season doesn't mean it will last forever, nor does it mean we are destined to remain in that place of hardship. God's protection is not limited by what we see in the present moment. He is working behind the scenes, even when we don't feel it, to bring about the good that He has promised for our lives. That ability to remain thankful, even in hardship, comes from knowing that God is in control and that His plans for us are bigger than any challenge we face today. There's also a spiritual richness that comes from cultivating gratitude in difficult times. In the Bible, we are encouraged to give thanks in all circumstances, not because the challenges themselves are easy or pleasant, but because God is always present in them. When we practice gratitude in the midst of pain, we are actively choosing to acknowledge God's faithfulness, even when it's hard to see through the fog of our struggles. It's a form of worship, a declaration that we trust in His goodness, even when we can't see the way forward. Gratitude becomes a form of surrender, where we release our grip on the outcome and trust that God is working everything together for our good. This kind of gratitude is transformative. It helps us build a deeper sense of peace and contentment, even in the face of hardship. It allows us to focus on the things that matter most: our faith, our relationships, and our ability to grow through adversity. It shifts our mindset from being overwhelmed by what we don't have. It allows us to tap into a well of inner strength and resilience that comes from knowing we are deeply loved and protected by God, no matter what life throws our way. In the end, the ability to remain grateful during difficult times is not about denying the struggles we face, but about trusting that God is with us in them. It's about recognizing that, even in the hardest of moments, He is working in our lives, refining us, teaching us, and helping us grow into the people He created us to be. That sense of gratitude is a reflection of His ongoing protection, a reminder that no matter how challenging life may get, we are never truly alone, and that everything will work out